smaller country. They are a weaker country. Their economy doesn't produce anything that anybody wants to buy except oil and gas and arms.
Yeah, cut it out over there, as Senator McCain said. Yeah, that really stopped them. 650, Big 550, KTRS. Stephen Roberts joins us, ABC News political analyst, the best in the business. Good morning, Stephen Roberts.
Hey, McGraw.
Good to hear your voice. Good to have Merry Christmas to you and your family. Let's check in with this China thing. How much is Donald Trump muddying the waters, one president at a time, as his chief of staff, Reince Priebus, said? How much trouble is Trump getting in by tweeting and retweeting all these things with this China story and this drone?
Well, the troubling question here is, does he have the temperament, the discipline, the understanding of international issues to make the right judgments? And let's go back to the election campaign. Even a significant percentage of the people who voted for him said that they had qualms about his temperament and his judgment. But to a certain number of his supporters, it didn't matter, just like facts didn't matter. They didn't care whether he was telling the truth about Muslims cheering after 9/11. They didn't care whether he was telling the truth about deporting 11 million undocumenteds. They believed in him. And that can work as a candidate. But as a president, when your decisions have consequences, they don't have consequences in anything like the same way as a candidate. But the real concern is not just tweeting about the drones in China. It's the phone call that he took from the president of Taiwan, which changed in many ways American policy, or threatened to change American policy that had been settled for decades. Whether it's he now continues to say that the unanimous reports of his intelligence agencies that there was, in fact, Russian interference in the election in his favor. He calls it ridiculous, and he says, I don't believe it. Well, this is the most troubling aspect of the behavior. How can you be president if you don't accept the facts of a situation presented to you by your own intelligence agencies?
Maybe he's crazy like a fox, and if he comes off as a radical, right, then China doesn't necessarily know what's going on, and China's afraid of him, and China will necessarily bow down going forward.
Well, that's his theory. He has said repeatedly that he wants to be unpredictable, and a lot of his critics have said, well, that's just a cover for the fact that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he has no background in foreign policy. But he has certainly shown over the years as a business person that he is a shrewd deal maker. There's no doubt about that. But there's a lot of anxiety in Washington today about whether this is really the proper way to approach key decisions as a president, and particularly with foreign leaders. And it's true that American policy has been set over many decades. There are many shibboleths, many stereotypes, many standards. You take another example, naming as ambassador to Israel someone who denies the basic policy that has guided America in the Middle East for years, which is there should be two states, one a Jewish state called Israel, and another a state for the Palestinians. And this man, David Friedman, has denied that whole policy. So, it's funny. He's denied one China in the Middle East, in Asia, and two states in the Middle East. But this has shaken deeply a lot of the people who've worked on American foreign policy for a long time.
What are they saying in Washington, D.C. about the fact that he's not sitting for his daily intelligence briefings, and that when the CIA and the FBI reported from the Washington Post and other credible news outlets that they all agree that Russia was involved somehow in our election, he just chooses not to agree with those news stories?
Well, look, I think a lot of people find it very deeply alarming. Now, he is certainly right in saying that in the past, the intelligence agencies have made mistakes. He's pointed out perhaps their single worst mistake in modern memory, which was saying that Saddam Hussein in Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, which was used as the justification for the invasion. That is a black mark on the intelligence agencies, and it is true that intelligence agencies, like journalists, by the way, make mistakes. These are human institutions. But in a deeper sense, he says he doesn't need the intelligence briefings because he's such a smart person. A lot of people here say, well, if you're such a smart person, then you need the intelligence. You should be smart enough to know you need the intelligence briefings. Particularly, here's a man with absolutely none, I mean zero experience in foreign policy, who has said in interviews that he learns about foreign policy from watching TV shows. Now, given the enormous range and responsibility to the issues he's about to deal with, you would think he would welcome these intelligence briefings. And that's what has alarmed people, that the sense of dismissing not only the process of intelligence gathering, but the notion of facts themselves. I mean, there's a reason why the Oxford Dictionaries said that the word of the year for 2016 was post-truth. Because Donald Trump has been the chief advocate of the notion that facts are what he says they are. Well, you can do that as a candidate. It's much, 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 much harder, as you and I both know, to do that as a president.
Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst from Washington, D.C. Stephen, thanks for all your help all year long. Talk to you soon.
Look forward to it.
You got it. 6:56.